morning. You're watching ABC News GH. This is ABC Headlines. I am Abna Mante. Coming up in the headlines, the Ghana Police Service has restored calm at Mamobi following violent clashes between supporters of the NPP and the NDC. Still to come, the anti-cocoa smuggling task force of the Ghana Cocoa Board has seized 100 bags of cocoa and apprehended a driver and mate at Old Akrade in the Sojaman district for attempting to smuggle cocoa beans. We have these and many more coming up shortly. Do stay with us. You're watching ABC Headlines. Now into our first headline. The Ghana Police Service says it has successfully restored calm at Mamobi, a suburb of Accra, following violent clashes between supporters of the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress. The political confrontation, which escalated into a violent altercation, resulted in injuries to 9 individuals, stirring tensions within the community. The police service has indicated that they have brought the situation under control and have since initiated efforts to apprehend the perpetrators responsible for the unrest. An update posted on the police social media handles indicated that the perpetrators have been identified and that processes are underway to bring them to face the law. According to an earlier release from the police, the confrontation led to 9 supporters of the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress injured. It further stated that 7 of the injured persons have been treated and discharged, with 2 others still receiving care at the hospital. Away from that, flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Mahama, has criticized Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the NPP government for neglecting public schools in the country. Speaking to residents of the Dafiama Busi Isa constituency, Mr. Mahama emphasized that nearly 8 years into the NPP administration, many schools in the Upper West region still lack essential furniture. Recalling past visits, Mr. Mahama highlighted how Dr. Bawumia, when he was running mate, witnessed children sitting on stones in villages due to a lack of furniture. Capturing the moment in photographs, he lamented that despite Bawumia's involvement in the economic management team, approximately 1.2 million children continue to attend schools without proper furniture. The former president called on the vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to provide the infrastructure as he used to do while in opposition.
Akufo-Addo. He used to come and roam in Upper West here and look for schools where there was no furniture and see children sitting on stones. And he would take pictures and go and say, I visited this school and they didn't have furniture. NDC has failed to give him furniture. Today, 1.3 million basic school children have no furniture. During the NDC time, he will visit and he will donate furniture to the school. Today, 1.3 million basic school children in Ghana have no furniture. And yet, he is in charge of the budget today. He doesn't even need to use his own pocket money to donate that furniture. He can take it from the budget and buy furniture for those children. Why is he not doing so? I challenge him to visit the schools in Upper West that do not have furniture, and he should provide them with furniture.
While the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Mahama, has described the disqualification of the People's National Convention from contesting in the 2024 presidential elections as discriminatory and unjust. Addressing supporters following his 3-day tour of the Upper West region over the weekend, John Mahama asserted that PNT's flag bearer Bernard Mona is better placed to run as presidential candidate than some of the qualified candidates, adding that the EC's decision to disqualify Mona is biased.
There are 13 people who were qualified to be on the ballot paper. Unfortunately, our brothers in the PNC were wrongfully disqualified. I do not understand how come the PNC were not allowed to be on this ballot paper. The PNC is a more worthy party than several parties that I see here on the ballot paper. But that's the issue we have with the Electoral Commission. Sometimes they are discriminatory because there are some people on this ballot paper who Bernard Mona qualifies more to be here than those people. And I know it will provoke controversy, but I mean it. And so we are here, NDC.
Still on the NDC, Member of Parliament for Tamale South, Haruna Idrisu, has expressed confidence that the National Democratic Congress will soon shift from a minority to a majority in Parliament. He noted that the current 4th Republican Parliament is heading toward a constitutional test, which will result in the transformation during the next parliamentary session. According to Idrisu, the NDC lawmakers plan to invoke Article 97 of the Constitution during the parliamentary sitting on Tuesday, which will formally establish their majority status. He indicated that this move would be based on the constitutional provisions that govern the disqualification of MPs. The former minority leader and his fellow MPs argue that for legislators who have filed nominations to run as independent candidates in the 2024 elections are no longer recognized under the Constitution.
On Tuesday, the Parliament of Ghana will reconvene. And when it reconvenes, I am very certain that Parliament and Ghana will go through a major constitutional test. And that constitutional test is that the NDC minority must become the majority from Wednesday next week. I assume, and this must happen if there is constitutional and legal propriety in Ghana, because any nuanced interpretation of Article 97 provides that if a member of Parliament on a political party ticket like MPP defects and fails to be independent, that MP ceases to be member of Parliament. And if an independent member of Parliament, by virtue of the provision of Article 97, subclause G, an independent joins a political party, that independent loses constitutional recognition and does not belong to Parliament. And even if an NDC candidate, MP, defects to become an independent, he ceases to be a member of Parliament. Therefore, we will invoke the Speaker's proper and true interpretation of Article 97.
Away from the NDC, the Anti-Cocoa Smuggling Task Force of the Ghana Cocoa Board, in collaboration with National Security, has apprehended a driver and the mates at Odakrade in the Sojaman district for attempting to smuggle cocoa beans. According to a National Security source who briefed the Ghana News Agency, the task force received a tip-off around midnight about individuals transporting cocoa beans to Togo. Through surveillance, they uncovered a staggering 100 bags of cocoa beans concealed under a load of chippings in a tipper truck with the registration number GN 177324. The source described the operation as a decisive one against growing cocoa smuggling in the country, and that it underscored the commitment of authorities to safeguard Ghana's cocoa industry and combating illegal trading activities aimed at exporting cocoa beans across the border to neighboring Togo. Ghana's cocoa sector is facing significant challenges due to widespread smuggling, climate change, disease, and illegal mining activities. By the end of June, Ghana had produced 429,323 metric tons of cocoa, which is less than 55% of the average production at the same point in previous seasons. According to the Anti-Smuggling Task Force, cocoa losses due to smuggling have more than tripled in 2023-2024. It is conservatively estimated that the country lost 160,000 tons. Global credit ratings agency Moody's has upgraded Ghana's long-term local and foreign currency issues rating to CAA2 from CAA3 and CA, respectively, citing extensive debt treatment that has significantly alleviated the government's financial burdens. The agency also revised the West African country's outlook to positive from stable. The positive outlook reflects the potential for liquidity risk to ease amid ongoing fiscal consolidation efforts supported by the IMF program. Moody's said in a statement, the country's statistics agency said in September that Ghana's economy grew by 6.9% in the second quarter of 2024, the fastest in 5 years. Moody's also said it expects the country's debt to keep decreasing though at a slow pace, as government resumes paying interest and principal on all its debts. These are all the stories we have in the headlines this morning. ABC in the Morning is up next. Stay with us.
It is possible, highly possible, possible.
Yo, abusuafo a yɛahyia ha nananom
vice and paying for Aquaba. None of Pacho kind of foot.
Dauroma Amamran Yamania Kwansu Mama Ekwana Yabisa Yura Vice President as say Ojina Homa or Yukuna O to Francano. Nekasamaf or her Yabedana Manana.
Safuano eni abankese mo namum safuano kita nananom ene ba manfo owura fikese mu hase no okita snap pantu ba ko eno achi no nana atem president onena
Nana Chame Wadaoma, Pennyfo Asu, that's your son.
Yukuna O to Francano. Nekasamaf or her Yabedana Manana.
Omu adia ye friend no credit system. Credit system no na se no sen obi pese oto adia unni sika no mpo a ubetimi akọ fat deposited ato na utua kakra oto TV a efie miensa kakra na watu ewie ka kakra efie num na watu ewie o sano ema omo asetene mu eyemre omo ade miensa ema saade no eye adwuma wo abrochiman de dikan obia wo ID number onim obia obema obia sa credit no a gise onim ne pakro a womba no de tosumienu obia wo address bibia wote first year no emame one first year no emame rano America sano said the kano baby also no gina no ohono baneba so egina enyesa enti motomami a number 1 na mo ato ama bafo ewia ye ejuma bebre ye yamishira mu nyina medamu ase
bra ye raba ye no obeka exchange rate ho asem exchange rate asem obeka ye no nipa bebre efa no tra Frise Yewraka say exchange rate no say wanya ho adwuma yi a ebe kyerɛw de ebekɔ Yewra nsɛm a na ɔka nyinaa no na ɛyɛ adeɛ baako a ɛfrɛ no demand and supply.
Monday morning, and I'm glad to come your way with ABC in the Morning, live on ABC News GH. This show is an interactive one. The discussions are very engaging, and the show is packed with all of the stories that are riveting and everything that is making the airwaves. The weekend was a packed one. So many things happened, and we will do well to unpack the weekend for you in today's show of ABC in the Morning. Before we head straight into our conversations for today, Maya Angela reminds us that life is going to give you just what you put into it. Life is going to give you just what you put into it. Put your whole heart in everything you do and pray, then you can wait. If life is going to give you what you put into it, then I will encourage you to put in love, to put in good thoughts, to put in all of the good virtues that you have, so that life will reproduce for you, or produce for you, the things that you have put in. So I encourage you, as you look forward to a beautiful week, to put in all of the beautiful things in you, so that by the time the week is ending, you will look back and say that my week has been a very successful one. This is how we start ABC in the Morning this morning. Let's take a breather. We will be back with Front Story. Welcome back to ABC in the Morning, live on ABC News GH. We are streaming on YouTube, ABC News GH. That is the channel. You should be interacting with us there and on all our socials at ABC News GH. And as going to our front story this morning, we are looking at the unresolved recommendations of the Emil Short Commission amidst tensions ahead of the 2024 elections. This year we go to the polls, but ahead of the elections, we've seen a few pockets of tensions rise up. We don't want that to escalate into something that we cannot handle. And you would recall that in 2019, something happened during a by-election at the Ayawaso West Wogon, a by-election. Then, beyond all of what happened during the by-elections, a committee was established. The committee reports have not been resolved. Nothing really has been done. So today we are diving deep into this important call for justice in a case that still has some bearing even as the 2024 elections draw closer, and the violence that marred the 2019 Ayawaso West Wogon by-elections. The former commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Justice Emil Short, has once again called for the prosecution of individuals responsible for the violence that occurred on that fateful day. Speaking at the West Africa Policy Dialogue Series, he emphasized the need for accountability, particularly for those involved in incidents that led to the loss of lives, adding that anything contrary could erode public trust in the democracy process and potentially encourage further violence in further elections. Let's listen to what Justice Emil Short said.
The chaos around the results codation process and announcement led to the death of at least 5 persons. Some sources put the figure at 8 persons. This incident tarnished Ghana's image as the yardstick of other democracies in the sub-region. As of today, the case has not been resolved, and no prosecution has taken place. This has the potential of decreasing the trust level in the justice delivery system in the country, which can threaten the peace of the 2024 general elections. Accountability of the perpetrators before the 2024 elections would have assured the electorate that such incidents will not be repeated during the 7th December 2024 elections. It is among the very reasons why the major opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, NDC, is refusing to sign the Peace Pact because they are skeptical about the effectiveness of past peace pacts. They believe that as a country, the 2020 Peace Pact did not achieve its intended outcomes. Unresolved past electoral issues have the potential of affecting the credibility and peace of the 2024 general elections. Ghana's highly competitive multi-party elections have resulted in 3 transitions from one political party to another. Despite this remarkable achievement of the country, there are still challenges that threaten credible and peaceful elections in 2024. And I'd like to focus just on a few.
This latest call from Justice Emil Short isn't just about Ayawase West Wuogon. It is a reminder of the unattended recommendation by the Commission and how unresolved issues of electoral violence could set a dangerous precedent as we inch closer to the 2024 general elections. As we've seen some pockets of violence ahead of the elections, let's look at what happened yesterday, over the weekend, there was a clash between the NPP and NDC supporters in Mamobi. There have been clashes in Wale and all over. And these are the pockets of violence that we are talking about. Let's take a look at the Emil Short Commission's recommendation and let's see what they recommended that governments do, the steps they take ahead of addressing the issues that came up during the by-election. You'd recall that in 2018, November 2018, the incumbent MP for Ayawase West Wuogon, Honorable Emmanuel Tremantin Jarko, passed. And on passing, there had to be a by-election to elect another member of parliament to represent the good people of Ayawase West Wuogon. Because of that, Ayawase West Wuogon went to the polls again for a by-election in January, specifically on 31st January 2019. And the violence erupted at the Labaoleshi polling station. During the elections, it was between the current MP, Lydia Sarah Malhassan, and the NDC's Delali Brempong. Those were the two that stood for the by-elections on 31st January 2019. It was at this by-election that violence erupted. And when violence erupted, the UNDP had something to say on it. The UNDP wrote that the United Nations Development Programme has been following the ongoing by-election in Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency in the Greater Accra region with keen interest, as this is a further illustration of the democratic process that is embedded in Ghana. However, our attention has been drawn to media reports of violence and a shooting incidents by unidentified armed men at the Labauleshi Presby JHS polling station during the by-election, leading to the injury of at least 6 people. This is what UNDP says. I would read more as we go on. But the question is, will we see justice before the 2024 elections? All the way back to 2019, violence erupted. Some people were affected because of this violence. A commission was set up. The commission did their work and came up with a report. 5 years later, we really do not see how much the commission's report has been implemented. Will we see justice before the 2024 elections? Will the prosecution of those involved in the Ayawaso violence send a strong enough message to deter any potential violence in these hotspot areas? Are we prepared to face these challenges head on? Or will we allow the ghost of past violence to overshadow our journey toward a peaceful 2024 elections? What does this mean to the Electoral Commission as it outlines hotspot areas? Meanwhile, the EC has identified some 7,250 key flashpoints or hotspot locations where electoral tensions are likely to escalate if not closely monitored. By not implementing what is in the Commission's report, what are we setting? What are the precedents we are setting ahead of the elections? Let's speak with Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. He is a governance expert and a co-founder of the CDD Ghana. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Prof, with key recommendations on security and accountability left unattended to, how do you think this will affect public trust in government's ability to ensure a free, fair, and safe electoral process, especially in relation with the Emil Short Commission's report?
Yes, Justice Emil Short himself said in his commentary on the matter, they made a number of recommendations to government, and I believe if at that time the government had embraced those recommendations and have taken action, it could have mitigated the kinds of concerns that especially the opposition party has today, and also have helped in making sure that none of the political parties as well as the security agencies will be negligent in the upcoming elections. But I think with that kind of grudge, a very huge grudge that the NDC have, they are going to the election with all kinds of suspicions, and that in itself could provoke needless conflicts or violence. And we are hoping it doesn't happen. But I think people interested in governance of the country certainly are very worried that the government never took any action. And for these few remaining weeks to go for the election, I'm not sure the justice system is going to be able to organize itself, deal with these cases. It's just unfortunate that our president, who himself is well respected as a lawyer, dealing with the cause over the years, didn't get his attorney general to take swift action in demonstrating to the whole country that electoral violence is not tolerated. So I think that is one of the dark spots on this government in terms of its inability to ensure the prosecution of those who violate electoral laws.
Prof, with the pockets of violence being witnessed currently, how will the full implementation of the Emil Short Commission's report help to address the violence and tensions before they escalate beyond what we can handle?
Well, as I said earlier, it's just too late for that particular case to have any impact, because I don't believe that with a short period left for the election, the justice system is going to be able to organize itself and bring these people to prosecution. It's just unfortunate. So I don't believe those past actions or violent actions, the lack of prosecution itself is influencing, as I said, it's influencing the NDC in the actions. But as a country as a whole, I'm not too sure how it's going to impact on it. But the point I'm making really is that it's a blight on our governance for a government to be so negligent in prosecuting cases that are so, I say, glaring in terms of the breaches that we witnessed. In fact, in Techima, in the last or so elections, there were some shootings, also individuals lost their lives, and all kinds of things that happened at the place. And yet, we haven't seen any action on the part of the Attorney General. Whether they are deliberately overlooking it because it affected their party or simply the slowness of the justice systems, I do not know. But certainly the picture is not good for ensuring fairness and justice when such incidents occur in our country.
So the picture is not good when it comes to ensuring fairness and justice when it comes to the country. However, we have a few days to go, and whether we like it or not, the elections will happen. We've seen tensions brewing, and they are steadily brewing. What are the measures we should be putting in place at the moment to de-escalate all of these tensions? Because we know how crucial this 2024 elections are and what they bode for the country with regards to our peace and our security. So what are the measures there, those short-term measures that can be very hard-hitting? What are those measures that we can put in place?
I can mention two important measures. Just two. One, is for the political parties to resolve to put up the best behavior, to resolve to educate their members to put up the best behavior when we go to the polling stations on 7th of December. And as part of that, the political parties must also refrain from rhetorics that are seriously not peaceful. You hear some of them making all kinds of threats. Even the party in opposition is already threatening to put people in jail. They're insulting themselves. That leads to that kind of tension. So I think the political parties must adopt a kind of language that is more peaceful than violence as they are doing currently. So I think the decisions by the parties themselves to make a resolution on that is crucial. The second part is the security personnel that will be deployed at these various stations. I know that at times it's tough for them, but look, they are trained. We want to believe they are professionals, especially the police. So once they are deployed, I think their behavior should also reflect their professionalism, and they have to be trained to know the standard of operation procedures at these police stations, so that they do not make the mistake of needlessly provoking any of the parties in the elections. I think if we can treat these two measures, we can apply them well, then I'm sure it will be a way to minimize the possibility of conflict at the elections. You see, at the moment, I know that a lot of civil society actions are being taken, including lectures as Melchor gave, as that you mentioned. Last Thursday, I know the Catholic Cardinal in Rome, Cardinal Texan, also gave a very powerful message in his lecture. And last Friday also, I noticed that there was a roundtable dialogue on electoral violence, and the military, the police, and civil society, other stakeholders were there. So as usual, Ghanaians, we seem to be mobilizing to ensure peace and non-violence elections. But I think the onus is more on the political parties and the security agencies.
The onus falls more on the governments. Prof, would you say that the Vigilantes Act, the Vigilantes and Related Offences Act, Act 99 now, that is now in place, has been effective in curbing political violence and dismantling or disbanding vigilante groups?
Well, these days we don't hear much about the vigilante groups, whether they exist secret or not, we are here to know. But certainly they were part of the problem for election, because as you know, in previous elections they were visible, they were dressed up in all kinds of uniforms, and the way they even appear at polling stations was a big problem. And now we passed that law precisely to avoid that. So what I think the security agencies and the Electoral Commission, as well as government, what they should be doing now is to ensure that there are no vigilantes at the stations, and the police should be authorized to quickly arrest and detain people who appear without authorization and pose themselves as security people. All that, and I think the Electoral Commission, if possible, should also provide special tasks for all the police who are officially assigned to the various polling stations, so that when they appear or they attack, we will know that they are authorized. Besides that, all these other people, macho men who come around and creating all kinds of problems and intimidating people, they should be publicly announced as banned. They should have no appearance at all at the polling stations. And I think that in itself will also go a long way to make sure there's peace.
Prof, looking at government's acceptance of the Emil Short Commission's report, government's posture towards the report when it was released, would you say that, beg your pardon, would you say that setting up the Emil Short Commission was a waste of the country's resources?
Well, it was good to have set it up because it was important for the nation to know what happened, and then the recommendations that will be made to ensure that what happened is not repeated. That was the essence of setting up the commission. So it was good in doing that. Now, after they've done their work and submitted their report, that's where the problem, I think, began. The government's failure to announce publicly and taking some measures in response to those recommendations is what is disturbing for all of us. So I'm saying that the setting up wasn't bad. It wasn't a waste of resources. But what is really troubling everybody is the government's inability to embrace and ensure that the recommendations are properly enforced or implemented. So again, in hindsight, it may be easy for anyone to say it was useless because the government did not embrace the recommendations. Yes, so in that respect, yes, we can say that. But I think it's still, the report is still there. And that should be a yardstick for us measuring in future how government reacts to such problems. And this government has not been very keen in taking measures that seem to affect their own party and that kind of stuff. Now, if we continue to do that, then of course we are creating a very bad precedent for the way we practice our electoral politics as we go further into this republic.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Prof. We will do well to have more conversations on the security of the nation as we get into the election, looking at the fact that this election is very paramount to us as Ghanaians, and our security is also of the most and utmost importance to all of us as Ghanaians. Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Prof.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah is a governance expert and a co-founder of CDD Ghana. He's had this conversation with us on the Emil Short Commission's report. And in our conversation, Prof says that 2 measures can be put in place for security ahead of the elections. The political parties must put up their best behavior. These pockets of violence, when you look at it, it basically hinges on the political parties and the way they run their things and the things that they are doing. So they have to put up their best behavior and should refrain from making unpeaceful rhetorics. And when they climb the podium, when they take the stage, the conversations that they have, the declarations the political parties make, it is about time that they started adopting the right speeches, the right words to speak to their sympathizers and their supporters. The EC has identified some 7,250 key flashpoint locations where electoral tensions are likely to escalate if not closely monitored. These numbers show that in some way there has been a decrease from the 2020 flashpoints that were identified. This year the ECs identified some 7,000 flashpoints. However, in 2020, the EC identified 9,644 flashpoints. So you could say that if you are juxtaposed both, you would say 2024 is generally better than 2020 in relation with identifying flashpoints. However, these areas include parts of Greater Accra, Ashanti, Northern, and the Eastern regions, and have historically been prone to electoral disputes and conflicts. The Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency, which is a known hotspot in the last elections, could once again be on the radar. With political tensions running high and issues of security top of mind, these flashpoints need careful attention. And as citizens of Ghanaians who have the right to go and cast our votes come December 7, we must also realize that it behooves on us to do well, to conduct ourselves well, so that we are not caught in anybody's web of using us as bait for any violence. It behooves on us so much to decide that we will not be a part of any violence that will come up before, during, or after the elections. It's very necessary for the security of the nation that we maintain the peace that we have and do not move into realms that could destabilize us as Ghanaians. So it's very necessary that as we get into the elections, we look at our peace and our security. This is all for the front story this morning on ABC in the morning. We have looked at the unresolved recommendations of the Emile Short Commission amidst all of the little pockets of violence that are cropping up ahead of the 2024 elections. You're still watching ABC in the morning on ABC News GH. Let's take a breather. We will be back. you for staying with us. You're still watching ABC in the morning. Let's take a look at what is making the news on the various news portals. What's making the news on the various news portals? If you haven't been abreast with the news, this is where you get to know what is making the news on abcnewsgh.com. This is the website you should be visiting, abcnewsgh.com. Court bars Cynthia Morrison from running as independent candidate. These are the newspaper headlines. Court bars Cynthia Morrison from running as independent candidate in the 2024 elections. Also, anti-cocoa smuggling task force has intercepted 100 bags of cocoa at Old Akrade. 100 bags of cocoa at Old Akrade. And Apia Kubi says, we failed as MPs for allowing mining in forest reserves. MP Apia Kubi says that he and his colleague MPs have failed as MPs for allowing mining in forest reserves. And Ghana welcomes its first ever deaf lawyer, Juventus Drorina, at the just ended call to the bar last Friday. Let's take a look at what is also on CT Newsroom. Cocoa smuggling. CT is also reporting on cocoa smuggling, that the task force has seized 100 bags of cocoa in Old Akrade, and former President J.A. Kufuor says lead the fight against Galamsey, and he's urging academics to lead the fight against Galamsey. Also, Moody's upgrades Ghana's credit rating. The outlook raised to positive. And on myjoyonline.com, Brian Echampon says state of emergency won't stop Galamsey without community action. He says state of emergency won't stop Galamsey without community action. And NDC has unveiled comprehensive strategy to create 1.7 million jobs and calls out NPP on mounting unemployment crisis. Finally, the CJ says lawyers must not be part of activities that destroys the nation. The Chief Justice has called on lawyers that they must not be part of activities that destroy the nation. So these are some of the news on the various news portals. For more news, visit our website www.abcnewsgh.com. www.abcnewsgh.com. A lot happened over the weekend, and I'm sure you are in anticipation to know what happened over the weekend. The good, the bad, the ugly. Well, Godwin is coming up next with sports and trends. Stay tuned.
5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.
Exchange rate in the Ghana for yet CDA. Now you pray a home dollar.
Ta Alhaji Mahmoud Baumia atuna numtuo ma hatem president on nananum nyina masira na idie na madaroma yede akwansere beren ebeto so se kwan da hode a na omampanyina bedi akire ene na achidifo abeba abeda nananum ase na fede de nantese ato so saa so na yeba.
Welcome to ABC in the morning. This is the trends and sports segment that I am bringing to you, and I am Godwin Opoku-Ochre. So right away, let's get to what is trending. Then after that, we will look at what is going on in the world of sports. So in trends today, we have the 4 top trends to be Salifu Amoakun, Tidal Rave 2024. We have East Legon trending, and also Nana Aba. Nana Aba has been trending for 4 days now. And the reason why, first of all, Salifu Amoakun is trending. So he is a bishop, and over the weekend, his son, a 16-year-old, was involved in an accident at East Legon. So the reason why East Legon and Salifu Amoakun is trending are tied, because the accident was with Salifu Amoakun's 16-year-old son, and also there were 4 other individuals involved. He was alleged to be overspeeding. Let's look at a video that he was a CCTV footage that captured the scene, which Salifu Amoakun's son hit another car, and the accident happened at East Legon. Now the situation at East Legon, and there were 2 who lost their lives, and also 2 other who are receiving medical care at University of Ghana Hospital. And also the reason why Nana Aba is trending. So on October 11th, Nana Aba posted on her Twitter handle. She said, "I just listened to Dr. Baumia's remarks on Galamsey. Glad he's finally commented on the menace. His solution is the most practical one I've heard so far. I hope he walks the talk if he gets the mandate." And under the comment section, a lot of people came to comment. So we have our standing music producer here saying, "The truth is very clear. People are asking why doesn't he implement all those policies now? If you don't know the difference between the functions of president and the vice president, you will keep on asking irrelevant questions. I have listened to some of Mahmoud Baumia's policies about he going to amend the Chieftaincy Act in order to give the chiefs more power to build their communities, and this could help curb the improper gold mining method menace as well." And also we have Stefan Stop Galamsey now saying, we've really heard him say a lot. Which has he walked the talk thus far? Sorry. And that's the question that he is also asking. And the reason why Tidal Rave is trending, over the weekend on 12 October, there was one of the biggest entertainment events at La Palm Beach Hotel, Tidal Rave. And there was a lot of artists lined up who performed, and it was fun out there. Let's look at a video of how the scene was at the Tidal Rave.
It's that gospel church. It's that much in the mission.
So those were EL, Kwesiata, and Blacko Sherif performing at the Tidal Rave. And that brings us to the end of trends. Now let's look at what is happening in the world of sports. So in sports today, over the weekend, there was matches that took place in the Ghana Premier League. And I am bringing you a roundup of the scores and goal scorers of the Ghana Premier League match day 6. So on Sunday, Young Apostles FC faced House of Folk, and they were defeated 1-0 by House of Folk. The goal scorers for House of Folk were Emmanuel Amankwa and also Hamza Issa, and Samuel Prempe got the consolation. Bechim United defeated Mediama Sporting Club 2-0, and that was the first defeat for Mediama Sporting Club. Dalvin Yeboah and Emmanuel Aban scored the 2 goals. Nations FC and Gold Stars FC also played a 1-1 draw. We have Faisal, Charity, and also Kelvin Opon getting the goals for each of their clubs. Also, Aduana Stars scored 2, and Dreams FC could not score any. Emmanuel Mafo and Abubakar Adams got the goals for Aduana Stars. Basaki Holy Stars also defeated Karela United 1-0. Prince Opoku got the goal for Basaki Holy Stars. And the match between FC Samatex 1996 and Insuatriman was rained off because the weather conditions were not favorable. And that is the end of the Ghana Premier League roundup. Now let's look at what will happen today and tomorrow, and also a match in the AFCON took place over the weekend. That is on Sunday. So Sunday, Burkina Faso and Burundi faced off, and Burkina defeated Burundi 2-0. And today we will have other matches taking place, and also tomorrow there will be several matches. So today we have Sudan facing Ghana at 2 p.m. Sudan will face Ghana at 2 p.m. Lesotho will face Gabon at the same time. Mauritania will face Egypt at 5 p.m. Congo will face South Africa. Niger will face Angola. Guinea-Bissau will face Mali. Sierra Leone will face Ivory Coast. Botswana will face Cape Verde. Rwanda will also face Benin. All these matches will happen at 5 p.m. And at 8 p.m., Comoros will face Tunisia. Central African Republic will also face Morocco. And Libya will face Nigeria. And after that, we also have Kenya facing Cameroon at 2 p.m. and Gambia facing Madagascar at 3 p.m. Liberia will face Equatorial Guinea at 5 p.m. and Togo will face Algeria. Zimbabwe will face Namibia. Ethiopia will also face Guinea at 8 p.m. and Eswatini will face Mozambique. And on 15th of October, that will be tomorrow, we have Malawi facing Senegal. South Sudan will face Uganda. Tanzania will face DR Congo, and also Chad will face Zambia. And these are the matches that will take place in the AFCON 2025 qualifiers. So ABC News will bring you all the results and news surrounding these matches. So let's look at what happened over the weekend in the European waters, where UEFA Nations League also took place. We have Austria making a statement win against Norway. They scored 5-1 against Norway. Also, England defeated Finland 3-1. Greece also scored 2, and Republic of Ireland couldn't get a goal there. We have Kazakhstan, who stayed home and got defeated by Slovenia. Also, Armenia stayed home and lost 2-0 to North Macedonia. Faroe Island versus Latvia was 1-1. And also, Liechtenstein versus Gibraltar was goalless. And Malta defeated Moldova 1-0. And that was what happened in the European waters too. So that is the end of sports and trends for today. I am Godwin Opoku Ochre.
Morning. It's time for Tech Check with me and the opponent. Right here on ABC in the morning. Just went by was Godwin Opoku Osho with sports and trending update. Today we are doing 5 tips to ensure a successful Zoom call. Since Zoom has always been around, but it really took effect when coronavirus came in 2019, and a lot of us jumped into it. Now the rise of remote work, global teams, and social distancing measures has made video conferencing an essential tool for personal and professional communication. Zoom meeting bridge geographical gaps, enabling people to connect and collaborate with anywhere, and to be able to enable people to connect and collaborate from anywhere. With Zoom, individuals are able to join meetings in a leading provider or provide conferencing solutions with over 400 million daily meetings always. And with Zoom also, individuals can be able to attend virtual events and participate in online education and conduct business meetings. The platform also supports mental health and social connections, allowing people to stay in touch with loved ones remotely. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, Zoom meeting has become an indispensable tool for fostering global communication and collaboration as we go. And here are 5 tips to help you prepare and participate effectively in when you are having a Zoom call. The first one we are doing is that prepare your technology. The first one we are doing is prepare your technology. Preparing your technology is as vital as making sure you have a successful Zoom call. So you need to consider ensure your internet connection is stable and fast. So if you know you have to join a Zoom meeting, make sure that your internet connection is strong, and also update your Zoom app to the latest version. Applications are one few things on our phones that we do not really take a critical look at anytime we have to update it. So make sure you update your application, that's a Zoom app, and then use a reliable headset or earpods with you when you are also using to be able to communicate well on the app. Charge your device or laptop before the call. So this is what you have to do as you prepare for your device. The second tip you are giving is that choose a suitable environment. Find a quiet private space with minimal distraction. Ensure good lighting. Avoid harsh or low light. So when you are in a Zoom call, you have to make sure that you don't turn your back to the natural sun. If you are in your room indoors having a Zoom call, do not turn your back to the window, but rather face the window, whereby the natural sunlight will reflect on your face and brighten your face on the Zoom call. And then also silence notifications on your device. When you're having a Zoom call, you're having it on your phone or your laptop, you're advised to silence notification both on your laptop and your phone, so that you're able to communicate effectively well. And the third tip we are giving you is to test your audio and video. So you are advised to join the call 5 to 10 minutes early to test your audio and video. So before the Zoom starts, or as soon as the Zoom meeting starts, you join, you test your audio. If you are the one sharing the meeting, or you are even a participant, which you definitely be, you have to join the Zoom call on time so they can test your video and your audio, because anything can happen. And check your microphone and speaker setting as well. So at times you could be in a Zoom call, you'll be talking, interacting, or giving your submission, but the other participants are not hearing what you are saying. So you have to make sure to adjust your camera settings and then your mic setting as well. So same on the testing of your mic, you have to make sure your face is clearly visible. So if you are sharing the meeting, it is very important to make sure that your face is as visible as all the participants if you are allowed to turn on your camera. So that's what we are giving you. The fourth tip we are giving you is to be mindful of etiquette. Being mindful of etiquette is very crucial as well. So you have to be punctual and respectful of others' time. So if the time agreed on is to meet at 12 in the afternoon, you make sure to join the Zoom call as early as 12, so that whatever discussion, explanation there is will be able to be mated on the table for the meeting to go on. Also mute your microphone when not speaking. So these etiquettes are very important. When you join a Zoom call, you are advised to mute your mic. If you are not speaking, you advise, even if you are chairing the meeting and you are not speaking at the moment and any of the participants are speaking, you are advised to mute your mic for others to be able to give their submission, and then use gestures and body language. It's very, very important when you are on a Zoom call. If you are chairing the meeting or even a participant, your gestures online, how you throw your hands and everything is very mindful. So having these online etiquettes when you're having a Zoom call really ensures that you have a successful Zoom call. The last tip we are giving you is engage actively. Pay attention to the conversation and take notes. So engaging actively is also important. It's also a tool that you can use to be able to have a successful Zoom call. So you have to engage, pay attention critically, and then take notes when necessary. Use video to show your face and maintain your eye contact. So if you are chairing the meeting, if you're a participant giving a submission, your advice also when your camera is on, you'll be able to connect with your audience or the other people on the Zoom app with an eye contact, whereby you can give your submission to them and use reaction. So joining a Zoom call is crucial, as we are discussing, and it's not always that if someone says something that you want to react or you want to make a comment, you have to turn on your mic on your camera. There are reactions on the app, so you can give a thumbs up, a laugh, or even whatever it says to show your approval or agreement or appreciation with the person. So if someone is making a comment and you want to laugh, you can use a reaction to laugh, or someone is making a strong point and you think this point is strong, you can give the person a thumbs up. So these are tips that we gave you right on Tech Trick, how to manage and have a successful Zoom call. Additional tip before we take leave of you is use a stable and comfortable chair. Don't use swinging chair whereby you'll be making noise and not even feel comfortable. Avoid eating and drinking during call, especially if you are sharing the meeting. You don't have to eat. And even if you are a participant and you are giving a submission and you are eating at the same time, it doesn't really pursue you out well. And you need to also keep your phone nearby in case of technical issue. Anything can happen with technology, and have a backup plan. The backup plan here is that you need to have someone's number and a number of a participant that you can call if something happens, that you are out of the meeting or your phone goes off or it's on low battery. You can call any of the participants to let them know that something happened and you are off from the meeting. So you are trying to make the plan and then come back, and that will help you. So these are 5 tips that we give you to be able to have a successful Zoom call right on Tech Trick. By following these tips, you will be well prepared for a successful and productive Zoom call. To get started with Zoom, simply download the app and create an account. It's obvious that you have to create an account and download the app and invite others to join in a meeting. With its user-friendly interface and robust features, Zoom makes it easy to connect and collaborate with others worldwide, whether for personal or professional purpose. So Zoom meeting can significantly improve your quality of life, increase productivity, and expand your global reach. This is all we have for you on Tech Trick with me and your Ponichi on ABC in the morning. Tomorrow, as we are celebrating and observing the breast cancer month, we'll be bringing you something on health tips. So do stay tuned with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back with more.
advertise your brand or business on ABC News GH Television, call us on 030-278-8645 or 050-993-0360 to secure your slot. You can advertise your brand or business on ABC News GH Television. Call us on 030-278-8645 or 050-993-0360 to secure your slot. You can advertise your brand or business on ABC News GH Television. Call us on 030.
Godwin and Andy brought you the trend, sports and tech trick, and I'm sure you have taken something away from that little segment with the very, very intense conversation, especially for tech trick, showing us how to use Zoom. At this time of our lives, we will use virtual meetings for most of the meetings we have, and it's good for us because it limits the amount of travel time you need to do when you're able to interact with people all over the world. Away from all of that, let's get into Business Fix. Is planning or has taken a decision to extend gold for oil to the private sector. So government to extend gold for oil policy to the private sector, and it's by doing this, by this extension, government aims to enhance the availability of foreign exchange and stabilize fuel prices. Gold for oil is basically to be able to buy oil with the gold we have, so that we don't need to rely solely on the foreign exchange or on the forex. And government also hopes to encourage more participation and increase competition, and ultimately provide efficiency of the supply process, so that we are not only relying on the government agencies or state-owned agencies for gold for oil, especially BOST, but also to decentralize it to the various private institutions or to the private sector. This move could help to further bolster the economy by providing businesses with more opportunities to engage in the oil market, while ensuring a steady supply of fuel for consumers. By this, if it spreads to the private sector, we consumers know that there is a steady supply of oil, not just from one source. The Gold for Oil policy is an initiative introduced by the government of Ghana to address the challenges of rising fuel prices and foreign exchange shortages. We use a lot of the foreign exchange to buy fuel. We do not use our CDs, and because of that, we need to rely so much on the foreign currency, so much so that when there's a shortage, then there is a problem that needs to be tackled. The core idea for the Gold for Oil is to allow government to use gold exports to purchase oil directly, use gold exports to purchase oil directly rather than relying solely on foreign currency. So rather than putting all of our hopes on foreign currency to buy oil, so much so that when the foreign currency source and the cedi is unable to match up, then we can only buy a little, or we can't even afford so much, and then it falls on the consumer to pay higher prices. The goal for oil is to help with the gold, our gold exports, to buy the oil. When this conversation came up, the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Dr. Patrick Ofori, welcomed the decision. This decision to expand this Gold for Oil initiative to include the private sector. The Chief Executive Officer for the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors welcomed it. And he welcomed the initiative because he says that to ensure broader participation and greater fairness in the industry by leveling the playing field in the sector. He emphasized that the private sector players who purchase from the same, that private sector players also purchase from the same international suppliers, and they too faced forex constraints and should also have equal access to this program. So he welcomes the decision to expand the policy or program so that the private sector players can also enjoy the Gold for Oil policy, because as government buys from these places and face forest constraints, they, the private people, are also facing forest constraints. We will be engaging an analyst on this conversation, but before we come to the conversation with the analyst, let's take a break. We will be back.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have...
You're welcome back. You're watching ABC in the morning. We are on the Business Fix segment, where we are looking at government's intention to extend the Gold for Oil policy to the private sector. You would recall that government introduced this Gold for Oil policy so that we could trade for oil with the gold that we have, because you'd realize that the forex was becoming a big issue for us in Ghana here. Day in, day out, the dollar was increasing, and it is with this dollar that we buy oil products from the international market, and we always had to match up to be able to buy it, so much so that now the consumer is the one who is suffering. On all the conversations we've had, you would always realize that if things become difficult, the rippling effects is a big one, and beyond the rippling effect, the final person who will bear the brunt of the problem or the issue is always the consumer, because when you buy as a seller, as an entrepreneur, as whatever you do in engaging in any service or any business, you wouldn't shoulder the burden alone. You would offload someone to the consumer, and then you realize that at the end of the day, the consumer is the one who always suffers. So when they go and buy the oil, and it is expensive because the dollar has shot up and the cedi is unable to catch up to the dollar, oil products become expensive. We're unable to purchase oil products at the prices that we would have wanted, so that people would be driving and be looking out for the changes that were occurring at the various filling stations. You see that it's gone up by 30 pesos, by 20 pesos, by 50 pesos per liter, and then drivers are complaining. Passengers alike are also complaining, because especially for those of us who use public transport, if fuel prices go up and then the GPRTUs increase transport fares, it is the passenger who will suffer for it. And then there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of argument, there's a lot of anger, and all of these were as a result of the cedi being unable to match up to the dollar. The government says that let us bring in an intervention. Instead of going to buy oil with forex, with dollars, let us use gold, because we have gold in abundance in the country. So we'd use our gold exports to buy oil, and this is what birthed the Gold for Oil policy, or the Gold for Oil program. Beyond that, government is intending to now open up the program to include players in the private sector, and the private sector players seem to be happy about this inclusion by government. Let's speak with Charles Oforijima. He is with the Africa Center for Energy Policy, and he is a policy there at ASEP, on this conversation on government opening up the Gold for Oil policy to include the private sector. Good morning, Charles. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah.
Charles, government is intending to open up the Gold for Oil policy or program, to extend the Gold for Oil program to the private sector. What do you make of this intention by government?
Yeah, I think, thank you. The name is Charles Ofori Jemfi.
Jemfi, my apologies.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so I think government instituted this Gold for Oil policy to deal with some issues around the broader problem with the depreciating currency and how it impacts on the prices of petroleum. But we've actually looked at some fundamental issues and how that can affect, the Gold for Oil, the entire program in itself, and even the evidence provided as to whether it is really achieving the kind of goals that it's supposed to achieve. Because again, if you control for the normal macroeconomic issues around the price of crude on the market and then our currency, we don't see much evidence on how the Gold for Oil policy is achieving its intended outcome. So it is quite interesting to see how we are bringing in new players in there, and that could be a bit problematic, especially when you've not really had any distinct direction as to how things should go as far as the Gold for Oil deal is concerned. So it's quite surprising and intriguing to see what government really intends to do with this.
So you are not too enthused about the expansion by government?
I think we've not really been enthused about the project in itself. Yeah, the policy in itself. Because number one, it has a whole convoluted, a lot of players in there, and at each line is its own transaction cost. So that even introduces a lot of costs into the policy, and we've not seen much of a very detailed policy document outlining how it's supposed to be. save these few presentations here and there, and then the structure that has been shown. But in itself, there are quite a lot of issues that we need to deal with first. Dealing with the macroeconomic issues is not really about them doing good for oil, but really about solving the fundamental issues around what is causing our currency to depreciate. And that is really the long-term solution we need to have as far as oil and petroleum prices are concerned. So, yeah, it's quite skeptical in our estimation on how this can really be possible, especially when we've not even, proven what the impact is in this current state.
Yes, it's quite skeptical from your point of view, like you're saying. How should we look at this policy? Since you are not enthused about it, you feel it is a skeptical policy. How best can we look at this policy so that it will yield the best outcome or a better outcome than we are seeing at the moment?
I think it's a bigger issue about how we revisit the entire Go for Oil policy. We need to look at it from first principles. How do we deal with the depreciation currency? How do we deal with the impacts on our petroleum prices? How do we deal with establishing a refinery capacity to deal with increasing prices of petroleum? Those are fundamental things that we need to work with, and I don't see Go for Oil solving that's the kind of situation we are in.
So do you think that this Go for Oil policy will be able to last, or it will be like one of those policies that after a while it fizzles out like it never existed?
That would be the question for government to answer. But maybe its impact is what it's a bit concerning. Yeah.
It's a bit concerning. But now government is looking at extending it to the private sector. What does the private sector players, what do the players stand to gain by entering into the market? The CEO for the bulk distributors said that they also face forex issues out there, and that by opening this up to them, it is good for them because then it lessens the burden on them, so to speak. So what do they stand to gain by now being a part of this program? Okay, we have lost Charles Jima. We'll look at establishing contact with Charles. But Charles says that there really is no distinct direction on how this Go for Oil program or policy must move. And because of that, we must revisit the whole program and policy to better align it, because at the moment, the question to ask is the policy doing what it's set out to do? Are we seeing the fall in fuel pricing? Are we seeing that the sector is seeing a boost? So the policy should be looked at, because it is not achieving the outcome that is set out to achieve. Because he says you look at the price of crude on the market and you look at the policy that we are running, and you really cannot see a synergy between the two. We'll look at establishing contacts with Charles Ofori Jemfi of ASEP so that we can look at this conversation. However, the CEO of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Dr. Patrick Ofori, he has welcomed this inclusion of the private sector into the Go for Oil program. He believes that it will bode well for their sector as private stakeholders in this economy, or in this petroleum economy that we find ourselves. Like I said, the Go for Oil policy, or the Go for Oil program, is a program that is an exchange model. It is an exchange program. You exchange gold for oil. Ghana has gold. We have gold deposits and we mine gold. However, we do not have oil. Enough oil to be able to fuel the economy. And so we buy oil from the international market. In buying the oils from the international market, we use foreign currency, dollars, to buy oil. We do not use cedis to buy oil. And anytime the dollar is is appreciating and the cedi is unable to match up, it means that we would need more cedis to be able to buy dollars and in turn be able to buy oil. This puts pressure, it puts a strain, a very huge strain on the economy, on the city to be able to match up to buy oils. It's for this reason that we see the hikes in the prices of our oil products, the petrol, the diesel that we go and buy, and the rippling effect is what we have to pay for when you board a vehicle, when you buy anything on the market. You go to the market, the seller tells you that this costs, say, 10 cedis, and when you look at the quantity of the thing you're buying, you would have expected that maybe it were costing some 2 Ghana cedis. However, they would tell you that this is how much we spent on transportation just to bring these goods to you, and you realize that it has an effect on all aspects of the economy. Because of this, we are going into a program called Gold for Oil, where we can use our gold that we have to buy the oil, and because of that, then we are bypassing the whole issue of forex, of having to change a lot of cedis into dollars to be able to buy oil. Government is extending this to the private sector. The private sector says that they welcome this decision by government. But in our conversation with ASAP, ASAP believes that we need to take a look again at the Gold for Oil policy, because there really isn't a distinct direction on how the policy intends, or the tangent the policy intends to take. We will look at this conversation. It doesn't end here. We would subsequently look at the conversation so that we understand the policy better and also understand what it means for the private sector to be a part of this Gold for Oil policy. This is it for Business Fix. Stay with us. We will be back.
Million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot. Over 5.
This is ABC in the morning live on ABC News GH. Thank you for your attention. Let's get straight into our discussion for today. And we are looking at the cost of Galamsey. Galamsey does not just come and then go like that. Galamsey will leave you with something to remember by, and we are looking at the cost of reclaiming lands and water bodies destroyed by Galamsey. This is the conversation we are having this morning. The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, has warned that it may take up to 300 years to restore the quality of soil damaged by illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. Calculations conducted by the Institute using phytoremediation techniques, thus the use of plants to extract harmful substances, indicate that natural recovery may take over 3 centuries. Isn't this worrying? 3 centuries. I don't think you would be alive by then. I don't know who would be alive by then. Some toxicologists have also indicated that restoring water bodies contaminated by Galamsey could take up to 10 to 15 years for the country. Restoring water bodies contaminated by Galamsey. What are some of the contaminants of Galamsey? The contaminants of the water body: cyanide, mercury, and restoring the water bodies contaminated by this Galamsey could take between 10 to 15 years for the country. Toxicologists have stressed that even with prompt intervention, the ecological recovery of rivers and streams remain complex, requiring sustained monitoring and remediation. We'll have a conversation on this, and joining us for, we'll be having a conversation on this, but we have said over and over again how much Galamsey is expensive. Galamsey is not cheap. It is expensive because it costs the land and the water so much. These natural resources are resources that are very important to our very existence and survival as a people. Many have called Galamsey an ecocide, and rightly so, because it affects us as a people, it affects our health and our overall well-being. Even if this report is anything to go by, it tells us how swift we need to take decisions and measures, and how much we need to attach timeliness and discipline to it, so that we can recover in the years to come. The recovery of just the water may take 10 to 15 years. You look on the screens and you see how turbid, how muddy the water is. You look at the standard NTU of water of 5 NTU, and you check the NTU of water now in the country, and you realize that we are threading a very treacherous path, because Galamsey is ridding us of our very existence. The water you drink is laced with cyanide and mercury because of some very unscrupulous people who have decided to engage in these illegal mining activities. The land, the way the cyanide, these are heavy metals, and we say that heavy metal poisoning is something that you cannot overemphasize. We shouldn't even be coming into contact with these heavy metals, cyanide, mercury, but regular people have been able to get in contact with these things because unscrupulous people are using these heavy metals in their activities, and it is affecting us. We can't sit aloof and say that, as for me, I do not live here, so it doesn't affect me. It affects everybody, regardless of where you are in the country. Because of this, groups have gone on protests of various forms, raising concerns. Some groups have even gone a step further to sue government because of Galamsey, which is happening in and around some of our forest reserves. Galamsey happening on water bodies. And we need to take a look at it and take a look at it. The CSIR says that it may take up to 3 centuries to reclaim the land. 3 centuries, 300 years. What is the average life expectancy of any human being? How many people live up until 100 years? So if it says 300 years, the generations coming after us may be very disappointed in us when they come and see what we have done to the land. But you can start today to decide to turn a new leaf. turning a new leaf should have been yesterday, but if it couldn't happen yesterday, today is a day that you could turn a new leaf. On this conversation on the effects of Galamsey on the land and water bodies, we have joining us Dr. Michael Kumi he is a senior research scientist at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Good morning, Dr. Kumi. Thank you for joining us on ABC in the morning. Thank you. Dr. Kumi, kindly unmute so that we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you very much, my dear sister.
How dire? Okay? Yes, it is. Thank you. How dire is the current situation on our lands and water bodies per the assessments and monitoring by the council?
Okay, thank you very much, and let me say good morning to our dear listeners. Yes, as we can all notice from civil society organizations, the situation is very bad. Our water bodies are highly polluted with high turbidities. So we all of us can see by ourselves that waters have turned into a milky water. This is a clear indication that our water is oversalted and highly turbid, which is not good for us as a country.
Okay, Dr. Kumi, if you could please sit up, would be glad so that we can see you better. Yes, this is better. Thank you. The water is milky. The water looks milky. The water is turbid. Researchers at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research have said that it could take up to 300 years for the country to reclaim the land and bring it back from what Galamsey has done to the land. 300 years is too long a time. In the interim, what are the things that we could do to bring the land back to a certain level that could be healthy for us as people? Hello, Dr. Kumi, can you hear me?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, please.
Okay. Please, did you get my question,
my
or you need me to take it again?
No, I got your question. I got your question.
Okay.
Like my colleague just indicated in the media about the time to take for us to clean the soil based on the damage we have caused to nature. Really, it's talking about using phytoremediation, where we want to use the plants to treat the system. That's why it's going to take us that long time for the plant to do it naturally. So if we want to do it now, it means we need to now look for other means where we can be intentionally planting trees and plants that can easily take out this heavy metal from the soil. That is one step. Then we can also consciously, as a country, try to, which is going to cost us a lot. In that case, we need to, as part of agency, maybe take the soil from the place and dump it somewhere where we can actually do phytoremediation for that to recover it. So if you want immediate results, it's going to be very costly to the nation. And the best for us to do is now to stop, as everybody is indicating, that there should be a cessation of small-scale mining or illegal mining in our foreign reserves. So if we're able to stop it now, the nature has her own way of remediating the system. So for us to see immediate results, the first thing is for us to stop the illegal mining, as we call it, Galamsey, at the moment.
Dr. Kumi, can you take us through the...
Are you okay with me?
Yes, I am. Can you take us through the methodology on some of the work you did in coming to the conclusion that you came to, that it will take us 300 years to reclaim the land?
I'm sorry, there was a break in your line. I don't know whether the network, I couldn't hear the question.
Okay, I'll take it
if
again.
I got you right, what are the methods I'm going to use to reclaim the land?
No, the CSIR obviously undertook some went through some processes to be able to come out with a conclusion that this is what the land is going through, and then this is how far we have reached, and it will take us 300 years to reclaim the land. In your work as CSIR, can you take us through the methodology, some of the practices that you employed to be able to reach this conclusion?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, when we say CSIR, we are talking about 30 institutes. And the institute that did that research is the Soil Research Institute. But I'm talking to you from Water Research Institute. So personally, I have not done that. But based on the literature I read from my colleague from Soil Research, he is saying that if we are going to do remediation, using phyto, like using plants, to take away the heavy metals, and based on their calculation, it's going to take us 10 years. How do they do it? There's a formula where you take a known amount of heavy metal in the soil that it is known. Then you plant the trees on that soil that is contaminated. And based on the monitoring, you evaluate the rate at which the soil is getting better, or the metals are being removed by the plant. And based on the amount that is in the soil, that is left in the soil, then you can extrapolate and say that if it's taking this number of days for this amount of plant to remove this quantity of heavy metal from the soil, that if you extrapolate, it's going to take us 300 years if you want to do it this normal way. So basically, that's what our colleagues from Soil Research in Kumasi did, and what was put in the media from CSR, as you are referring to, but it wasn't done by Water Research Institute.
Yes. So now I want to come back to water research. You're saying that it will take 10 to 15 years for our water bodies to get better than it is now. What lengths are we looking at in terms of restoring our water bodies to the state to their former state? Hello, Dr. Kumi. Hello, Dr. Kumi.
Yeah, a lot of factors will come into play if we are talking about water contamination. You know, the mercury and the cyanide. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Kumi, please go on.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can. Please go on.
Hello? Yeah, when it comes to our water bodies, you know, when these heavy metals are contaminated with the water, they will not stay in the water. They will sink into the sediment. So the heavy metals will go and stay at the bottom of our rivers. So if you want to now treat it, how do we go about it? Are you going to allow natural way of treatment, or we are going to dredge? You understand? If we want to dredge, which is an expensive cost, then it means we need to dredge all our water bodies that are heavily polluted. Then we treat the metals. Other than that, we leave it for nature to take its own course, where we will stop the source of the contamination. When we stop polluting the water, nature by itself, with time, will treat itself. So for us to be able to treat the contamination immediately as a country, the first thing we need to do is to stop it. When we stop it, then we look at other means where we can do coagulation. We try to put other alums and the rest who could now coagulate the metals that we have, which is also expensive cost. You understand? So for us to be able to overcome the problem of pollution, the best solution for us as a country is first and foremost to stop the illegal mining activities. When we stop it, when we give the water some time, it will heal by itself. Then most of the problem will be seated at the sediment. When the heavy metals are seated at the sediment, what it implies that we have other fishes who eat from the sediment. And these fishes will now eat the sediment and become contaminated. So when we buy fishes from these kind of rivers that we are polluted, it related that we are also transferring these heavy metals into our systems as human beings. And that's where the problem is. So for us to be able to do a very effective work as a candidate and to also propose a treatment, then we will need to do a very serious monitoring to see the extent of these heavy metals in our sediment. As we speak, I'm here to see that we as we are talking about galamsey issue, that we are we prepared to do this kind of work, which is yet to be seen. So for me, the immediate solution is for us to stop the galamsey activities and give it a time. Then we can focus on how to remove the trace metals that are left in the sediment.
Dr. Kumi, will CSIR be undertaking this project? You are saying that we should stop the galamsey and then give it a time to look at the trace metals in the sediments in the water bodies. Would CSIR look at taking up this project to addressing this issue from your angle as scientists?
Yeah, the CSIR have the capacity. We have the capacity to do that. But what we will need is funding and support. You understand? We have the capacity. We have the technology we have the instrument to detect and analyze the extent of contamination, which is within our purview as a mandate that we can do. So CSIR we have already started asking for financial support to embark on this kind of monitoring. So this is a state at which, as far as I'm concerned, we have gotten to. CSIR is doing a lot of education as well and trying to educate people about the extent of the damage. CSIR, through a Public Utility Regulatory Commission, has also monitored some of these rubber bodies. And we've come out clearly that there is too much stability in the system. When it happened previously and laws were enforced, we saw a reduction in the turbidity. So we can do the same thing now. If you stop the turbidity to go down, then we have the capacity to monitor the rivers and to also track how long we can be treated. I think we have the capacity to do that.
Okay. Dr. Kumi, we will definitely have this conversation the more so that we can see how far the fight against galamsey goes. Thank you for speaking with us this morning. Dr. Michael Kumi is a senior research scientist at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Water Research Institute, looking at this conversation on the cost of reclaiming lands and water bodies destroyed by galamsey. He said that their counterparts or their colleagues at the soil research did a survey or looked into how long it would take for the land to be reclaimed, the land reclamation from galamsey, and saw that it would take us at least 3 centuries to be able to do that. And I mean, like I said, the best time to have started was yesterday, but if we couldn't start yesterday, we may have as well start today. So if we can look at galamsey and look at it from a very whole view and not just through a certain small pinhole, we can look at the issue and look at solving it now. Water is very necessary for us as a people, and our lands are also very necessary. We get our food from the land, and we also get food from the water. We get water that we drink from the water, and we need to take care of these two natural resources that we have been blessed with, so that we do not get to a point of no return. So to start with, galamsey has to end so that we can begin to reclaim our lands, no matter how expensive it will be. We have gotten to that point, and we need to start to come back from where we have reached. So this is the conversation on the cost of reclaiming lands and water bodies destroyed by galamsey. Still on galamsey, we'll do another conversation on the fight. There are so many fights coming up against galamsey. It started with groups going on demonstrations, groups speaking up against galamsey, and then ultimately we saw organized labor speak out against galamsey. This gave many Ghanaians a lot of hope, and Ghanaians were looking at seeing what organized labor was going to do about this. Organized labor had intended to go on strike, but after meeting with government and having various conversations, decided to hold on. They have given their reasons on suspending their strike, and said that beyond that, they are also monitoring government's fight against Galamsey. However, not every group has decided to hold on with the strike. UTAG maintained that they were going to strike. UTAG maintained that until they have seen something decisive from government or heard something decisive from government, they were going to continue with their declaration of strike. So UTAG, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, are on strike. TUTAG, the Technical University Teachers Association, have now joined UTAG on this strike. So at the moment, two teacher groups, the University Teachers Association and the Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG and TUTAG, are on strike in the fight against Galamsey. The Technical University Teachers Association declared the strike to protest against the illegal mining menace in the country, and their decision was made after organized labor withdrew from a nationwide strike without consulting TUTAG. You would recall that UTAG said organized labor did not do extensive consultation on their decision to rescind their strike. TUTAG also says that they were not consulted by organized labor, and TUTAG have expressed disappointment and condemnation towards organized labor's unilateral action, and have stated that it against the unity and collective strength of the labor movement. TUTAG has demanded that government take immediate action to address the Galamsey issue. And how do they take an immediate action? They should revoke the LI 2462, and this LI governs the granting of mining licenses, particularly in environmentally sensitive areas. Government should also halt the issuance of new licenses and withdraw all licenses granted for prospecting and mining in forest reserves and areas around water bodies, and increasing budget allocation to the Ghana Water Company Limited to ensure a better and sustainable water supply for all citizens. TUTAG wants government to increase their budget allocation to the Ghana Water Company Limited so that they can ensure a better and sustainable water supply for all citizens. TUTAG urges government and all stakeholders to act swiftly and decisively on these demands that TUTAG is making to protect the environment, to safeguard the future of the nation, and restore the faith of the Ghanaian people in leadership. TUTAG becomes the second teacher union that have gone on strike over this fight against Galamsey. Like I said earlier, University Teachers Association declared an indefinite strike across all their 15 branches on October 10. The two strikes aim to pressure government to address the Galamsey menace and protect the environment. To address the Galamsey menace and protect the environment. And these are some of the matters arising after UTAG declared their strike across all their 15 branches. Across all the branches, UTAG voted in favor of the strike against Galamsey. UTAG voted in favor of the strike against Galamsey and have been hell-bent on going on strike. The strike commenced on 10th October, the day that organized labor was set to strike against government. That was the day UTAG began their strike. And TUTAG, the Technical University Teachers Association, have joined UTAG in this fight. The Technical University Teachers Association have joined UTAG in this fight. They are demanding various things from government. Amongst that is the revoking of LI 2462, the revoke of LI 2462, and they are also asking that government increase budget allocation. Government increase budget allocation for the Ghana Water Company Limited. for the Ghana Water Company Limited so that they can ensure a better and sustainable water supply for all citizens. You realize that our water bodies have become turbid. Our water bodies are turbid. The water is not wholesome to drink. The water is not wholesome at all to drink. So TUTAG is saying that budget allocation for Ghana Water Company Limited must be upped. TUTAG says that organized labor did not consult them before calling off their strike. Organized labor did not consult them before calling off their strike. For this reason, TUTAG is maintaining their decision to strike as a form of fighting against Galamsey. So many actions have come up because of the fight against Galamsey, various demonstrations, various stakeholder engagements, court actions and all of these are in response to the growing Galamsey menace in the country. After organized labor met with government took some decisive measures on Galamsey. Government has deployed some military persons to Galamsey areas to fight the whole issue on Galamsey, and government is expecting that it reaches a certain level that we can say that we are indeed fighting Galamsey. We'll be speaking with TUTAG on their decision to join UTAG on the strike, but joining us also for this conversation is Awula Sewa, the Executive Director for Eco-Conscious Citizens Ghana, and we also have Dr. Bismarck Parker, who is the chairman for TUTAG, the Kumasi Technical University. You are welcome, Awula Sewa. You are welcome, Dr. Parker.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, let me start with you, Awula. We just spoke with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. They have said that it is going to take us some 3 centuries to reclaim our lands. As eco-conscious citizens, Awula, how does this sit with you?
Well, we've been saying for a very long time that we face an existential threat. I wish CSIR has spoken earlier, because they have the data, they are the scientists. They could have made these comments a long time ago. But we the CSOs, the environmentalists, we have been speaking for a very long time, telling Ghanaians that they were not angry enough at being poisoned. At this present time, our administration seems to be more interested in votes than to stop the poisoning of Ghanaians. And that is why we commended organized labor for the strike. It's disappointing that the strike has been, to use their words, suspended. But we are grateful to UTAG and all others who are realizing that the demands have not been met, so there's no need to suspend the strike. Which of the demands have been met? We asked for a state of emergency, which was also echoed by when the Catholics had the prayer walk. We asked that all mining should be stopped in forest reserves and equipment should be removed. We asked for a pause in community mining. We asked for the revocation of LI 2462. Some of the demands have been partially met, but it would have been wise if organized labor had waited for the demands to be met before suspending the strike. But we commend UTAG for standing tall and the other organizations that are continuing with the strike.
The organizations, well, TUTAG is the organization that is also standing tall in this
so we say well done,
conversation.
TUTAG. We commend you.
TUTAG chairman for the Kumasi Technical University is Dr. Bismarck Parker. Dr. Parker, you are welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You have stated certain things you are looking forward from government to implement, otherwise you are on strike. What are the specific resolutions that TUTAG is expecting from government, and what timelines are you giving government to meet those resolutions?
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm glad you reach out to engage TUTAG to understand our position on the Galamsey issue at the moment. To start with, TUTAG as a union, as perhaps might have been monitored by Ghanaians, we strongly supported the position of organized labor, and we had resolved from all our campuses that we're joining the organized labor strike through votes. Unfortunately, before we could just announce our full position, organized labor circulated information of withdrawing from the action or suspending it. And that same night, we had to reconvene. And for us, the issues that we expect government to act on promptly, admitting that the condition has become, as most scientists and interested persons have said, an existential threat. And we are demanding for the recall of Parliament so that the LI, that 2462, that has to be repealed, okay, as has been indicated, should be done. And we can see from government communication that there was no timeline attached to that. So we say there should be immediate recall. We have also asked that we should, the government must see to halting issuance of new licenses because in the midst of all this crisis, there are still speculations that licenses have been issued, which actually sends a signal that no one is even caring about it. Banning of all mining activities in the forest reserves is an issue that we have called for government to act on promptly. All licenses for small-scale mining and mining in forest areas and our water bodies must also be immediately cancelled. We said that the government must initiate processes for reclamation, and then there must also be, at the moment, the issue has, for instance, if you're listening from Cape Coast, you would understand that even the treatment of water has become an issue. And we also understand that the treatment does not even take out these heavy metals. So there are issues that Ghana Water is dealing with, and government must increase budget also to these companies to be able to effectively provide good water for the people. We added to our call, all political parties must sign to a national pact. I think this has been a debatable issue, but from the position of TUTAG, these are the 7 listed items that we are of the view that even if that is not going to entirely resolve the issue, clearly addressing these things will help to solve or mitigate the condition we are facing. And while we have done this, we have also initiated the processes because, as I indicated, you see that we were joining organized labor, and we as a union need to also exhaust all the procedures to be able to embark on industrial strike. So we have initiated the processes, at the same time engaging government on this so that we can have a full resolution. So these are our demands at the moment.
Okay, I'll come back to you, sir, so that you give us the timelines for your demands. But we have joining us Dr. Victor Mogri. He is the National Vice President for UTAG. Good morning, Doc. You're welcome.
Good morning.
Dr. Mogri, your colleagues from TUTAG have also now, Prof. Mogri, sorry, your colleagues from TUTAG have also joined the strike, making some demands of government for the halting or the revocation of LI 2462, the halting of Galamsey, and all of the things that surround Galamsey. How do you receive this decision by TUTAG?
Oh, we are so excited about that TUTAG has joined us. To be frank, there is no major differences between us, TUTAG and UTAG, because we go together to bargain anytime we are having negotiations on our conditions of service. We go together with TUTAG to do that. The recent one that we had, TUTAG was ably represented and were able to really carry out that. So we're so excited that TUTAG has really joined us in this in this particular strike. It means that a good number of people are finding reason or are seeing that what we have called for is very, very essential. It is a true cause that we are embarking on. And we would like to entreat that all other unions should join the call. I mean, not just only unions, individuals, civil society, every Ghanaian should rise up on this. We should not only be looking at unions and associations. We should take our own individual actions to see. I'm told that there is a kind of a protest wearing red band or something that is supposed to start today.
Yes,
I'm not too sure, but
the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey has instituted. The Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, they came up with wearing red band to show how displeasure.
So all of these are calls for government to take stringent measures, government to take actions on this. And as I said, I will entreat that every Ghanaian should join this cause. We should forget about which party we belong to. We should forget about which organizations. We should think of Ghana. Ghana should be our number one priority. As we keep on saying, Galamsey threatens our survival. Water is life. So if your water is destroyed, then how will you survive? Food is life, and our food is getting contaminated as a result of that. So these two things, water and food, are the key things for survival. And if all of these are threatened, what will happen is that one day we'll have a ghost nation. We'll have a ghost nation. That means that everybody will just kaput. Sorry to use that word, but that is what we are looking at for. That is what we are heading towards if we don't do anything about this Galamsey.
That's what we are heading towards if we don't do anything about Galamsey. I would like to say, now that you see these educational institutions joining, or educational unions joining the fight, what role would you say they should play in drumming home the conversation about Galamsey? Because at the moment, there are people who still have not fully grasped the conversation about Galamsey, and with teachers, such workers that we need for our education system to grow, joining this conversation, what role should they play in spearheading it?
I think they are playing a crucial role, and they should continue. Mind you, this conversation started a long time ago. Civil society organizations, eco-conscious citizens, the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, we've been talking for a very, very long time that we face an existential threat. There was the documentary, Poison for Gold. And I kept on saying that Ghanaians are just not angry enough. Some people are selfish to think, oh, it's in some areas, it doesn't affect me. And we've all sat down and we've allowed the situation to get to this very serious situation where, as has been rightly said, water is life. Our water is at risk. And let's be absolutely clear, water company is not set up as it is now to remove mercury and other toxins from the water. So if we think that because the water is clear, we are okay, we should think again. The water could be full of mercury, and because mercury doesn't have a color. So I am annoyed in the sense that we've been drumming this for a very, very long time. There have been documentaries, Poison for Gold. And people were just taking the whole matter not at all seriously until there was going to be the festival in Cape Coast, and people then saw the gravity of the situation. As we speak, the food chain has been contaminated. Some yams and plantain were exported and found to have mercury. So I think that this is the time for all sensible Ghanaians to say enough is enough. All persons aspiring for political office should sign up not just to take steps. They should sign up to specific steps. We have asked for a state of emergency. This has been echoed by the Catholic Prayer Vigil. We need a state of emergency to enable the relevant authorities to go to our forest reserves and water bodies and farmland and remove all miners and mining equipment. We need that to happen. We need to pause community mining. We need to repeal all licenses that have already been granted to mining forest reserves. And the perverse LI 2462 should be repealed, and we should not be taken in by the steps being said so far that, oh yes, the Minister for Environment has written to the EPA. if they are going to go through the laborious step, and they have not yet recalled Parliament, it takes at least 21 working days. And if we look at when the current Parliament is going to end, it will not be sufficient time. So some persons are advocating that what the Minister for Environment should do is to make a statement before Parliament that he's revoking LI 2462, and that should suffice as a revocation. It's unfortunate that, and I'll say it again, organized labor gave no timelines before it suspended the strike. But those who have joined the strike, it's very, very good. And all sections of society should join in, because we are all being poisoned. It's not only a section of Ghanaians that are being poisoned. We are all being poisoned. The food chain has been compromised. Our water is compromised. And there are also national security concerns, because some of the illegal miners are armed. So we have to wake up and realize that this is not the time to play politics. This is the time for us to have only one party, Ghana, and all sign up to these demands. Eco-conscious Citizens has also given its demands. And if all political parties sign up to it with the pressure from the unions, because mind you, we've been talking for a long time about repealing LI 2462. We've actually taken the case to court in September. But it was not until organized labor brought it to the amplified our voices that the government is, whether paying lip service, but has said it's going to do it with no timelines, which will probably be the same as not doing anything. So we say that the fight has to continue until we see the result. One or two mining equipments have been destroyed. What does that mean? Why don't we look for those who brought the mining equipment into the country and call them for questioning? Because if your equipment is being used to poison the nation, then you have a case to answer. As we speak, before I end, we have Oliver still in custody for doing what? For trying to raise awareness about the existential threat we face. And those who have been poisoning us are walking free. Does this look like justice? Not to me.
Okay, this doesn't look like justice to you, Awula Serwaa. Let me come back to you, Dr. Parker. Dr. Parker, you have outlined your demands of government. What are the timelines to these demands? Have you given government a week? Are you giving them 2 months? Are you giving them 3 months? Are you expecting that they deal with it in 3 days? What are your timelines around your demands?
All right, so thank you very much once again. In fact, our statement wasn't very explicit on maybe in terms of days or weeks, but we have indicated that government should take very immediate actions. And we understand clearly that some of these things are procedural. For instance, if you have to recall Parliament. But what is the signal of preparedness to really act is doing as necessary and needed at the moment. Okay, so you can see clear approach that what is happening doesn't look like government is actually really prepared to take the bull by the horn. Okay, and we all will understand that if we are taking actions that really we want to reverse or in the immediate sense halt the damage or the destruction, then there are clear things that we have to do. We have seen maybe the sending of the military, like Awula just mentioned, but we've also heard that it's only along the river banks or where the people, some miners are located, and they more or less the team that went were given very strict or limited areas where they could operate. And what we will all understand, we've seen the devastation. If it's going to reduce, we'll see. We have itemized the things government must do immediately. At the same time, we are in the process to get the rightful permission from the National Labour Commission to embark on our strike. And usually that is just 7 days. So Ghanaians and TUTAC sees the clear picture that when the conditions improve, then we can now sit together to say that things are getting better so we can move on. But our position is that immediate action.
Immediate action. Okay.
And
Prof. Margaret.
We are not looking at Yeah.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Dr. Parker. Prof. Mogri, the last time we spoke with you, you said that you were open to deliberating with government, and if government calls UTAG to the table, you would come and then reach a certain understanding. Has government reached out to UTAG for further engagement?
No, please. Government have not reached out. We are yet to get any calls from government. I mean, there have been some backdoor calls and some backdoor threats and all of that, but
Prof. Mogri, threats. You say that backdoor threats. Which kind of threats?
For now, I would not like to go into detail because it has not advanced. It's just based on thoughts. So I would not like to go into detail.
Prof. Mogri, are these threats from individuals or they are from government?
You say?
Are these threats from individuals or they are from government?
So as I said, I would not like to go into detail. Let's leave it there for now. What I will say is that we have not been engaged. I mean, government has not engaged us yet. We are still looking forward to that. But we are also monitoring what is happening. Some of the pictures they are showing about the military going to these Galamsey areas to address the people, to face out these people. But I think last Saturday I was listening to one of the TV programs. I think either it was on Joy News or TV3 or so. And I think they interviewed the commander in charge of this Operation Halt. I think it's Operation Halt 2 or Operation Halt. But
Operation Halt.
And yes, Operation Halt. And he categorically mentioned that what they have been asked to do now is to go to the water bodies. That is what they have been asked to do. It didn't indicate the timeline and how long they are supposed to be there. But what he said was that they have to go to the water bodies, face out the people there.
Well, Prof. Mogri, the commander says it is 2 weeks. It is a 2 week off of operations.
Yes, they said 2 weeks. Yes, but that is not the point I'm driving at. The point I'm driving at is that they made mention that they've not been asked to go to the forest area. They doesn't know whether another command will come later on or not, but they've not been asked to go to the forest area. So I said the point I'm making is that we are observing or we're assessing what government is doing, but it is not comprehensive enough. The request we are asking for, and I think a lot of Ghanaians support that, and other civil society support that, is to place that temporary ban on mining in the water bodies, the forest areas, farmlands, all of that. So now the current focus is just on the water bodies. We don't know whether they'll go to the forest areas or not. You know, these rivers, they take their source is coming from the forest. So if you are focusing on only just the river bodies and all of that, what happens with the source from which the mining is taking place? Now, the thing is, the soldiers have gone there and slashed at the people, but it is still allowed that mining system be taken off. So immediately the soldiers leave that place, the people will definitely go back there. So we are still asking that ban should be done, and that is the surest way that we can really solve this issue that is really going to threaten our survival.
Solve this issue that's threatening our survival. Dr. Parker, on going on strike, it means that your students would also not be able to have the full expression of their university education. What have some of your students raised concerns on your strike that you have declared that you are going on, and what would you be doing to mitigate the effects that will have on them as students? Hello, Dr. Parker. Hello, Dr. Parker. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. You see, just like any other strike, the effects or the services that we have withdrawn will just mean that the campuses where students are present will be affected. As we know, most of our institutions are largely on recess, though, but there are students in final year who are completing their project work, and all these things have actually been put on hold. The reality is, so far, academia, we have been known for fighting causes for our own welfare in terms of salaries and other issues. And this is where most people are finding it difficult to understand that this is not about your salary, it's not about your welfare. So why? But we are within this country, we have families, our children, our relatives go to different places. We see this impact is not restricted to a certain place. It's the whole nation. And in fact, it goes and transcends beyond this country. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with the fact that, oh, government is paying you your salaries, but the reality is that the damage and the havoc that is being caused really need to stop. And so if it is something that is affecting the whole country, if the students are not in good health, they can't even attend the lecture, the universities that we are running can't also really function to its fullest. So every other consequences that we experience during times that we maybe strike for the sake of our condition of service and those other benefits, it will still applies. So for this, it's the impact is not new, but again that adds to the strength of the pressure that will be brought on bear on government to be able to see to it that the people perhaps who used to sleep are awake and they are watching. So that is it. For now, the impact would just be as we have always known.
So you are leveraging on the pressure that would fall on government to make sure that students are in school to be able to look at the issue of Galamsey and then fight it. Is that so?
Yeah, you see, if you may recall, I think this last Friday or Thursday when the Catholic bishops organized their demonstration, Ghana Union of, I think the Union of Ghana Students or one of the student bodies joined, and the reality is we are also going to have bear the consequences or suffer. The students admit that this is a real case. So it's a collective strength, I'll call it so. Okay, collective strength, whether lecturers or students, collectively, we are telling our governments that this approach or this issue that has actually become a canker more or less to our nation, we don't want it and we want it off. And I think with that collective strength, we can all, if it's resolved, we can all be back to our teaching and learning, and we will be happy.
Prof. Mogri,
yeah.
With organized labor suspending their strike, how is UTAG now holding organized labor? How does organized labor fare in the eyes of UTAG?
I mean, that is their own cup of tea, because I mean, we'll say that it wasn't the best of decisions they took, because at best what they could have done was just to say that they are maybe postponing the commencement of the strike or something, or they have given a timeline that, oh, if by this time they don't see these actions, then it is what they will do. But as you said, we are not the leaders of organized labor. And, we cannot force them to do what they want. The good thing is that organized labor is not a legal structure. So the decisions they take are generally advisory. They are not binding. And depending on the situation, depending on the issue that is being discussed, the individual unions have got the authority, or they've got the leeway to decide whether they want to go by what organized labor have decided. As I said, it is not binding. It is just a functional organization that will have come together as unions in the country to press for our interests. But it doesn't mean that any decision that we are taking is binding on every union. So, and you can see from the fallouts, you can see from some of the decisions that some of the unions took. In fact, some of the unions decided that they will not even go on the strike even before organized labor even took that decision. So whatever decision organized labor takes is not binding, and it is based on that we are proceeding on, or we have decided to proceed on the strike. And you should notice that on this Galamsey issue, we came up with a treasure first before organized labor came. I think it was 2 days clear before organized labor also came out with a treasure. So although at some point they came out and they were coinciding with some of the decisions or some of the actions that we wanted to do. But later on, one would realize that no, they were not ready to continue on the strike. We still have to hang on to our passion. And that is what we're working on. So as I said, it is for they themselves, or it is their own cup of tea to handle and to see how the Ghanaian public see them. Or you can see the public outcry on the action or the decision that they have taken. And it is not for me to say whether it is good or it is not good for them. What we want to press on is our current action that we are not taking. To continue to press on the government, we need to take action. I remember when government announced the e-levy that they said they wanted to introduce, and then in respect to that, they were going to take out the road tolls. When the decision was taken in Parliament, or no, it was just announced. It was just a budget announcement that the finance minister had done or so. The road minister quickly came out and announced that by the next day there should be no road tolls. So in the same way too, I think the minister can quickly announce the ban while preparing to go to Parliament to do whatever he's supposed to do. Because it is an emergency situation. It is something that you don't have to wait to go through all these processes. The laws are made for us, or how do they say it, or is it the laws are for us or whatever. We are in charge of the laws. And when we feel that it is not going on well, it's because we are not seeing people's lives or people dying and lying on the streets. But if people were dying and lying on the streets, will you be waiting to call or for Parliament to come back before you go and play and go through all those processes? Well, there would have been an immediate announcement.
There would have been an immediate announcement. Prof. Mobi, let me take the last words of Awula Serwaa in just 30 seconds, and then I'll take for Dr. Parker to in 30 seconds, and then we can wrap up. Awula Serwaa, your last word.
What I'll say is that we face an existential threat. We know there's a rise in kidney disease, in cancers, maternal deaths, deformed babies. We do not need to be wasting time. We have given clear demands that should be implemented. A state of emergency. Go to all the forest reserves and water bodies, clear all miners and clear all mining equipment. Revoke LI 2462. There's no time for playing games. Revoke it and revoke all licenses that were granted. And then we need to pause community mining because we are allergic to enforcement. We can neither monitor nor enforce it, and there are millions of them. We cannot deal with them. Then we need to investigate those who were mentioned in Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. If we start doing that, we will have some progress. But I have to say that it's perverse that the directors of Akonta Mining, who destroyed parts of the Tano Nimiri Forest Reserve or allegedly did so, are walking free, whilst those who organized the demonstration were arrested and not given police bail and initially denied court bail. This is a travesty. And we need to show that we take the existential threat seriously. The time for talking is over. all the government needs to do is to implement the demand. And let me be clear, what do you think the point of a strike is? If it doesn't cause any discomfort, then there's absolutely no point in causing a strike. The strike should last as long or as short as the government wants it to last. All it needs to do is to implement the demands and ensure that Ghanaians are not being poisoned.
All the government needs to do is to implement demands and ensure that the Ghanaians are not being poisoned. Dr. Parker, your final words.
All right, so thank you. The clear issue that we are dealing with is a big havoc or threat that we as a nation must be wide awake on. When we ingest these heavy metals, it will not do us damage immediately, but gradually. And I think that this must be a wake-up call for all of us as a people. We sit perhaps in the cities and eat from the villages where these activities are ongoing. Fish we buy and every other thing. And I believe that even with the little resources or the little comfort that we have in this nation, we are using this mining to also make it more difficult for even the poor to live happily in their own country. And as a union, we have a clear sight and focus that the government has been given enough room, but we have not seen the actions. The people who are the actual bearers of these consequences must be united in this fight. It should not be mainly politicized. Let's have a focus that if it works now, then we will all live happily in our country.
Let's have a focus that if it works now, we'll all live happily in our country. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Bismarck Parker. Thank you, Awula Sewa. Thank you, Professor Victor Mogri. Dr. Bismarck Parker is the chairman for TUTAG at the Kumasi Technical University. Awula Sewa is the executive director for Eco-Conscious Citizens. And Professor Victor Mogri is the national vice president for UTAG. This conversation on Galamsey and the strike against Galamsey. TUTAG have joined UTAG in their strike in the fight against Galamsey. Let's head straight into politics today.
Million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia, #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia, #1 on the ballot. Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia.
You're still watching ABC in the morning. Into politics today, our conversation centers around improving female representation in politics in the wake of affirmative action law. The improvement of female representation in politics in the wake of affirmative action law. The path to women's representation in Ghanaian politics has been slow but steady. Since the country's return to democratic governance in 1992, women have made notable strides through their participation and has often been confined to, though their participation has often been confined to legislative and ministerial. So we are looking at improving female representation in the wake of the affirmative action law. The affirmative action bill was passed not too long ago into an act, and recently the Minister for Gender and said that the government is assenting to the bill, the president, is assenting to the bill. So we are looking at how to improve women's representation, because we have to achieve gender parity at a certain point. The journey for women for the presidency began in 2008. Since 1992, we haven't seen women standing up to aspire to the presidency. But in 2008, 3 females were selected as running mates. In 2008, 3 females. If the flag bearers had won, it meant that we would have had a female vice president. In 2016, the first female who decided to contest for the presidency was the former First Lady, Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, and she contested as flag bearer of the National Democratic Party. The number of females rose to 2020 to 3 in 2020, and in 2024 we see that 2 females are on the ballot paper for the elections. At the moment, we have not had in the history of Ghana a female president, and it looks like having a female president is an abstract to the real possibility, an abstract to the real thing on the ground. But the affirmative action and gender equity law is meant to promote gender inclusiveness and parity in all walks of life, and especially in politics and leadership of the country, so that we see an equal representation in every facet in parliament and ministerial appointments and all. The law seeks to address a long-standing cultural and social challenge that has hindered the growth of female participation in politics in Ghana. There indeed are cultural and social challenges that women face in the country when it comes to being represented in politics. Before the law was assented to by the president this year, there was an appreciable amount of growth of women representation in politics in Ghana, especially at the legislative level. Despite the gains that we have made, there is a lot more work to be done to promote women's representation in politics. Where we are is not the ideal point, and it's not a point where we can rest on our oars. There's more to be done. So in assessing how the affirmative action and gender equity law can promote female representation, we're having a conversation with the coordinator Affirmative Action Bill Coalition. She is lawyer Becky Enyonam Ahaji, and she joins us. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you too, and thank you for having me, and good morning to all your listeners. Thank you.
Well,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay, that's great. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. And for the first time in the Fourth Republic, we are going to have the highest number of women in the race for the highest office of the land. 2 women standing for president, and then we have women also deputizing the flag bearers, some of the flag bearers in the race. Is it a feat we can be proud? Is it a feat? We can be proud of, or there's more to be done?
I think it is something we should be proud of as a country. If you look at how women have been marginalized, especially when it comes to key decision-making spaces like in our parliament or in the executive and all of that, I think it's something that we should, it's a feat that we should be proud of and we should be happy about. But then I think more importantly we should be happy and proud of having an Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act. That gives us a legal framework where, although unfortunately it was passed at a time that primaries have already happened and we are already nearing the polls, at least moving forward, we know that in the next election and in the next governmental appointments and all of that, we are going to have a critical mass of women in all these decision-making spaces. And so I think it is something we should be proud of. And hopefully, once the law is implemented and we all put our hands to work, like you said, we'll see much more progress. Yes.
In looking at
the implementation,
I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
In looking
I
at the
can hear you now.
implementation of the law, especially as we need to gear towards achieving 50-50 parity, how can the law help in improving the representation of women in politics? At the moment, we are seeing an appreciable number of women in politics, though, but you see that there are still barriers that women are unable to cross. There are barriers that systematically or systemically have been put in place, some very artificial barriers that women are unable to cross. With this law, how can the law help in deliberately improving the representation of women in politics?
Yes. So when you look at the structure of the law, so let me start with the most important clause in the law is the clause 1, and then it has the first schedule. So you see that the law is mandating, and it's not an option anymore; it's a requirement that from now to 2026 you should have 30% in all decision-making spaces. That's both in the private and public sector. Then from 2027 to 2028, we are looking at 35%. And then from 2029 to 2030, we are looking at 50% in line with our sustainable development goals. So what this means is, if you look at the law, it means the executive. So in the public service, politics is not just parliament, but we also know that the executive is that the next comes in, but all cabinet spaces, appointment to Council of State, appointment as diplomats, that's ambassadorial, appointment to board of state organizations, state institutions. So any appointment power of the president, there has to be mandatory 30% allocation for women who are hitherto marginalized in these spaces. And so what we are going to see is that the law is not making it an imperative for us to have women in leadership. It is not going to be an option anymore, or a policy where each government can come and say, I'll go with this or I wouldn't. So now from the executive, which covers, now let's come to the legislature. Now when it comes to the legislature, like I said earlier, unfortunately primaries have already happened. So with this 2024 election, there isn't much effect that the law is going to have on it. But more importantly, what you see in the law is that it gives, if you look at section 20, it talks about political parties and representation of women, and it makes it mandatory for them to have gender equity policies. That shows how they are going to make sure that they put up more women in terms of sponsorship of candidates, in terms of information, in terms of financial resources to equip women to stand up for positions. We all know that in as much as currently, yes, the filing fees are halved for women, a lot of the money spent in the bid for political position is actually the campaign and not even the filing fees. And we know that, unfortunately, because of how our society is structured, in terms of the financial power, men actually have more than women. That's one of the barriers women face in being able to compete with their fellow counterparts in the political space. But now it's made it an imperative for political parties to make sure that they allocate financial and technical resources to women who are contesting. And if you look at the Act 2, there's what we call the 7th schedule, which has strategies that political parties are supposed to undertake to that they equip the women who are standing for candidates. And it's not just those who are aspiring, even unsuccessful candidates, successful candidates. You see all those strategies outlined in the law. So it is giving the political parties an obligation, if I should say, to make sure that they equip women and they encourage more women. Also, political parties are to submit every year a gender equity report. So that is where we as citizens come in, and we have to hold our political parties accountable, and they would have to show to us how they have been gender responsive and how they have made allocation and provision and created a gender sensitive atmosphere for women to be able to compete at par with their male counterparts and also be integrated. And also when it comes to their internal policies, we are talking about the election to party officials party officials and party executives. They're also supposed to go with the quota I mentioned earlier. So we should have a critical mass of women in the internal structure of political parties. I think the law gives us that framework, and that is very, very important. Another thing that you notice that women face, which is a barrier, is the stereotyping, is the verbal abuse, is the hate speech and the attacks they face. A man can stand for a political position and no one is asking, have you finished taking care of your wife and children at home before you're standing here? But because of the cultural terrain and the patriarchal terrain we have in Ghana, you see that most women, it's not that they are not qualified, it's not that they don't have the skills, it's not that they don't have the qualifications, it's just because of the terrain, how rough it is and how insensitive it is to women. But under the Act, if you look at, there's an offences section under the Act where if you subject a woman in public life to stereotyping, to verbal abuse, to attacks, and all the things that earlier mentioned, you are actually liable to be fined between 500 and 1,000 penalty units, or you face imprisonment as well, between 6 months and 12 months. And we believe that this provision is very important because it provides a safety net for women. And it's not only for those in public life, but in the private sector as well. If you are a designated employer and you subject your employees to that, you can also be held liable. So, but since you're talking about political, let me just focus on this. So with that, the law also provides a sort of redress remedy for women if they face that, and also as political parties, so they have to ensure that they don't subject their female candidates to that, or else they'll be held liable. So we see that in terms of the barriers, what the law is trying to do is try to find a way where these barriers are no more standing in the way of women, and making sure that they also have. What equity does basically is to level the playing field so that each one can compete, and that's what you see the law is going to do moving forward. So providing a safety net, protection from gender stereotyping, verbal attacks and all of that, very important. Making it very compulsory in terms of appointments and nominations in the executive, or should I say in the public service. We're going to have an increase in the critical number of women in these key decision-making spaces. And we are believing that with a critical number of women in there, we'll have more gender-responsive laws and policies, and the perspectives and needs of women who form more than 50% of the population would be factored in. And as you can tell, research shows that when you have a balance of perspectives, if you look at even countries like Rwanda, or even if you go across the border and you look at the Scandinavian countries, they are doing better because they are let me put it this way, they are benefiting from both sides. They are tapping into the valuable resources of both men and women, and their countries are moving forward, and that is where we want to see Ghana move towards.
That's where we want to see Ghana move towards.
Yes.
Going into the elections, gearing towards the elections, a lot of people say that women's participation in our electoral process, when they're on the ballot or when they are supporting as running mates, just to add up to the numbers. With the law, and then looking at the number of women we are seeing this time, how do you envisage that the women will play a role in the election of someone as president in this 2024 elections?
So yes, that argument comes up a lot, and it's quite unfortunate. People think it's just the law is just an act of tokenism where you're getting just numbers. We are not talking about numbers, but we are talking about inputs. And gone are the days where you can sit down and say, maybe if it was 20 or 30 years back, you can say that, oh, where are the women? We don't have the women. But then we've had educational policies, we have affirmative action policies in our universities, and you've seen how much women are educated now. It's not gone, and even I think the recent census shows that even at the free SHS level, male and female are at par when it comes to education in terms of their entry. And so it's not about the fact that we don't have the women. You have very qualified women, in fact, more than qualified women. But then the problem is the terrain of how political structure is, and that is what has been the hindrance all this time. We are not saying that we are just going to put women in there. The law is very specific about having qualified women in these spaces, and so I think people should allay their fears about just having women in there being there for being the sake, that's not what you're going to see. And also what you're going to see is that with them being at the table, there's going to be a balance of perspectives. All the investments we've made in women as a country with our girl child education, with all the policies we've had, after we've invested in women, I think this is the time for the country to reap from that investment and have them in decision-making spaces where all the value and all the investments and skills we've put into them can come to bear for the country to develop. And the question about whether women will be supported, I think it behoves on us as citizens that the law is there, provides a legal framework, but we have to hold the duty bearers in the law accountable and ensure that they are implementing the law to provide the gender parity that we want to see. And so now it behoves us as citizens, if I should say, that we hold the duty bearers accountable and also
well, it behoves us as citizens to hold the duty bearers accountable so that the things that the law prescribes, we go according to them. We are looking at achieving 50-50 gender parity in representation across all facets so that our politics is not reduced to a playing field for just men. I particularly liked what Enyenam said about tokenism. This is not tokenism when you're saying that women are playing a role in politics. They deserve to be there. That is why they are part of the process, so that we are not looking at it as giving women a chance because it's just a group. Let's give one woman a chance so that we can all say that, oh, see, we gave a woman a chance. At this point in time, women deserve to be at the table as much as men deserve to be on the table. Becky Anyona Mahaji Esquire is the coordinator for the Affirmative Action Bill Coalition. This conversation is a conversation that is extensive and we haven't exhausted it yet. We'll have more conversations on it, looking at bridging the gap between men and women, looking at eliminating those social and traditional constraints that are on women, so much so that women up until now have been lagging behind in certain fields, but we know how capable women are and how they are able to do things on their own, and this law gives the opportunity for all of this. Enyenam, we lost you for a moment, but since you're back, let's speak with you in just 30 seconds. Give us your final words on this conversation, because we will have more conversations and subsequent discussions.
Yes, so final words, I would like to say that the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Act is a very transformative bill or act law for all of us. And for the women candidates, I think as a country we should, if we indeed believe in democracy, if we did believe in everyone having a voice, I think we should go out there, vote and support the women who are standing. And I think we should not just support them in words, but then provide an atmosphere where they can thrive, encourage them and provide every resource. And I think as a country would do better and then would have more to gain from their inputs. So yes, that's what I want to give as my final words.
Thank you for speaking with us, Enyenam. So Becky Anyona Mahaji Esquire is the coordinator for Affirmative Action Bill Coalition. She says we'll be a better country for it if we support women as much as we need to support them. This is all for politics today. The conversation on improving female representation in politics in the wake of the Affirmative Action Law. Let's get and take a breather. We will be back with Happy Hour.
Million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.
can advertise your brand or business on ABC News GH Television. Call us on 030-278-8645 or 050-993-0360 to secure your slot.
Some persons, beautiful people, are celebrating their birthdays this week, and we have some birthday wishes. Want to wish everybody celebrating their birthday this week and also in the month of October a happy birthday. If you have any birthday wish you would love for us to read out to your loved one, and get interactive with us on our social media at ABC News GH _ at ABC News GH _ send us a DM, and then we will be glad to wish you a happy birthday. Over the weekend there was a lot of happiness. People were enjoying themselves, people were raving, especially at Tidal Rave. For those of you who were unable to go for Tidal Rave, we are bringing you excerpts from the rave and how people had fun.
It's that gospel church. It's that much in the mix. Don't go out to preach.
me training me body, you know my target Van Damme. If I'm a new way, cantam, all you niggas get cancel. Mad over the smallest things like say you they run town. Walk around the call, you can make I design you a crown. Everybody talking like they help me pass myself. Nipa kai da bio, nipa kai da bio, nipa kai. See me a gangster minka so, see me a rasta preachy.
See that Ghanaians had a lot of fun over the weekend. We are just hearing into the Christmas. I believe there will be so many programs and activities lined up for the festive season, and I'm sure a lot of people would be doing well to attend one or two just to enjoy themselves. Let's take some birthday wishes. Like I said, if you have any wish for your friends, for your loved ones, for that special person, interact with us on our socials at ABC News GH _, and we'll be so glad to read your wish on your behalf to them as they celebrate that special time. Some people are celebrating their birthdays. Let's wish them a happy birthday. This is from your husband, your children, and TAC. To you, Mrs. Hannah Otopia Ado. And may God bless you on your special day and grant you all your heart's desires. You are loved. You are deeply loved and appreciated for the countless ways you touch our lives. Your selflessness, kindness, and devotion make you an extraordinary mother, wife, and sister. Here's to another year of love, laughter, and greatness. Cheers to an amazing woman. With love and admiration from your children, your husband, and TAC. Happy birthday, Mrs. Hannah Otopia Ado. And happy birthday to Alan the Great One from your mom and siblings. Happy birthday, my sweet boy. On your special day, I want you to know how much I love you and how grateful I am to be your mom. May your day be filled with laughter, fun, and all the things that make you happiest. You deserve the world, and I'll always be here cheering you on through every step of your way. From mom and siblings to Alan the Great One. We pray that you grow up to become a great one indeed. So that's all for Happy Hour today on ABC in the Morning. We are grateful to you for joining us on ABC in the Morning for all of our conversations from Front Story all through now on Happy. I'll be coming to you same time tomorrow, and you want to be with us. But before we go, there is a minister's press briefing, and the topic is achievements in the cocoa sector. Speaking is the Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Cocoa Board, so the CEO for Cocoa Board, Honorable Joseph Boahene Edu. He will be speaking at the Minister's press briefing. You can catch all of the updates here on ABC News GH. You should follow us on our socials at ABC News GH _. Interact with us on all of our social pages. Our channel on YouTube is ABC News GH. Please subscribe and be notified anytime we are live. And also for all of your timely news, all of the news that comes as it breaks, go to us. Our website is www.abcnewsgh.com. Enjoy the rest of your day. We wish you a wonderful and fruitful day. I am Abna Mate. Thank you for joining us.